Hi, it's Kuba again, and this time I'm going to tell you about my adventures in Peru. First, I got from Warsaw to Cuzco, where I had my volunteer program booked. Once again, I'm traveling solo at the last moment. This time, journey takes me about 20 hours. Cuzco is located in the Andes, about 3,400 meters above sea level. I arrived there in the evening and the taxi is waiting to take me to my new home. Or to be more specific, I'm waiting for the taxi for 20 minutes, thinking they won't come for me, but never mind. This time I live with a host family. The traffic in Peru is really chaotic, quite different from what you might be used to in Europe or the US. Several times I'm thinking we are going to die, but in the end, it's an adventure. My host family serves me local specialties like coca tea, which helps with acclimating to the high altitude. Don't confuse it with that white powder, these are leaves. They need few more chemical processes to become this powder. But you can't take these leaves out of the country, so if you want to try coca tea, you have to visit Peru. On the first day, my host family helps me to get to the volunteer side. Some basic knowledge of Spanish is very useful because without it, it might be quite challenging. They are completely chill. They told me once where I get on and get off, thinking that I will be fine. Yeah. So feeling the relaxed atmosphere, I calmly followed the instructions the next day. After all, if you get lost, you can ask someone for the directions, if you know how to speak Spanish. On the first day, we start with cleaning and feeding the turtles. And then I have to find my way back to the city on my own because the reserve is located about half an hour by bus from Cuzco. I have to return back to the city because I have introductory meeting with the people managing all these volunteering programs. It takes place in the office, which is also home to several other volunteers. You can also book weekend trips from there are quite a few to choose from. Overall, you can participate in medical volunteer work or programs where you help feed children. The next day we do simple activities like raking leaves, cleaning toucan's cage, and taking care of alpacas. Simple yet interesting because not many places allow you to work with such animals. Along the way, we learn why these animals are in the reserve. For example, parrots were saved from trafficking and the pumas from a club. Then we hike the nearby hills to cut some hay for pumas to sleep on. The terrain is quite hilly and hiking the first few days isn't so easy because of the high altitude. In the first week, I'm accompanied by two Canadian girls and we are going on a city tour in the afternoon. We visit some Inca archaeological sites, but I will tell you about them in one of the upcoming videos. Later, we participated in an Inca ritual performed by a shaman who belongs to one of the most recently discovered Incan tribes, around 1950, and they still continue these customs from several centuries ago. The Incan language, Quechua, yes, like this clothing brand, has survived to this day. It's fascinating that many people speak only Quechua, not even Spanish, and for English you can forget about it. Some people told me that my full name, which is Jakub, sounds similar to Quechua word Yaku, which means water. Interesting. After that, we visit a store where various textile materials from the camelid family were presented to us, including llamas, alpacas, and vicuñas. Believing that people from Europe and North America will definitely buy something. Vicuñas are the animals from which wool, the world's most expensive textile material, is made from. It's also extremely soft. A regular sweater can cost a few $1,000s. Then we head to the hill, which resembles something out of Rio de Janeiro, offering a great view of the whole city. In this picture you can see the main square of the old city. Interestingly, when the Spaniards invaded the Inca nation, they didn't completely destroy their architecture, but rather buried most of it under their own structures. So for example, underneath the cathedral, there is a Temple of the Sun. Here is also the place where I bought my alpaca sweater, which I'm wearing right now. Because I live as the only volunteer in my house, I often get lost in the city in the first few days. I recommend having a local SIM card because without it, I would probably not find my way around in the city. Uber also works, but I prefer to take random minibuses, though there is an alternative just in case. The work is generally quite relaxing. We have a lot of time to admire the animals and observe their behaviors. That day we are picking the remains of animals eaten by condors. Condors are birds with the largest wingspan on Earth. We sweep a few bridges, feed turtles, and move parrots from one place to another because they can't fly. They had recently been rescued from trafficking and their feathers haven't grown back yet. Once a week we have an event with volunteers from various locations. This time is a quiz about Peru and the information I gained from it is very useful for the rest of my travels. And also there are always prizes. Afterward we go to a restaurant with a stunning view of the whole city. And then we have a spot reserved for karaoke, a great activity to bond with the people I've just met. On the following day after the legendary karaoke we try to teach a parrot a song, but it isn't very cooperative. Ordinary.
Hola. Hola. Ordinary. Hola. Four. Hola.
Then we clean organical, which is like landfill. Not the most pleasant task because of all the animals' remains. But I'm not complaining, it's all about the experience. We also do some more raking, about 3 times again. During one of these events I made plans with a few people for a trip to Lake Titicaca, the highest lake on Earth. The trip was quite different from what I expected, but in a good way. There will be another video about it, and here is a sneak peek. To pay for this trip, I got lost in the city trying to find currency exchange that won't rip me off. It takes me about an hour to find a bus stop that will take me back home. But in the process I have a short trip around. That evening I leave for aforementioned trip and return on Monday, but that day I take a break from work. During the second and third week I continue with similar tasks while my company changes. Every day I enjoy delicious breakfast prepared by my host family, then I go to the volunteer placement. First by suburban bus with fantastic names like El Zorro, Husky, or my favorite, Batman. Afterward we hop on a long distance bus while enjoying the breathtaking landscapes and listening to Spanish music. Even English songs are translated to Spanish. We are often responsible for preparing meals for the animals and feeding them.
Chicos, las tortugas aquí.
Occasionally we also guide tours, especially when there is a tourist from a country whose language one of us speaks. More and more I spend my free time with other volunteers. We meet up after our works, and overall Cuzco is a very safe place. At least none of us had any issues. But daily life and interactions with people look totally different. Wherever you go, whether it's in the old town or at the bus station, everyone tries to get your attention to sell you some products or services. One of the funniest things I encountered was someone selling stuffed rats. I'm not sure why someone would want that, but okay. Once I have to wait about 15 minutes for a meeting, so I conduct an experiment. I sit in the middle of the main square and count how many people will approach me to sell something. It ends up to be about 20-30 people in 15 minutes. People are also quite open. For instance, one time I met a guy who was offering people coca leaves for free in the bus. People take them, including an elderly woman and a young boy, and they chew it. Now I wish that I tried them, but again, it has nothing to do with this white powder. The old age dilemma why Coca-Cola has coca in its name is solved. It contains an extract from coca leaves. I also had some unexpected adventures. For example, one day I had to pay for my Machu Picchu trip, about which there will be a video soon. I accidentally blocked my card and the ATM swallowed it. Guys, so remember to memorize your PIN well before traveling. There are also some quirks about the water. It's sometimes available and sometimes not available after 8 PM, which can be risky because you can run out of the water in the middle of showering or brushing your teeth. I tried it once and I lost. I don't recommend it, but it motivates you to go to bed early. In the second week, event involves various games like moving a reel from your forehead to your mouth without using your hands. After that we have salsa lessons. Yeah, real Latin America experience. Few more times I participate in volunteering, always something new is happening. One day for instance I'm cleaning fox cage which is 1 meter high and there are condors flying above me. These ones are separated because they are extremely dangerous. As I clean, the condors try to poke me with their talons. So one of the reserve staff gives my friend the task, as he said that molestar this condor through the net with a stick. Pretty interesting experience. Another time I go with my friend to a museum of woolen products made of alpacas and llamas. Of course the highlight is feeding these animals. We learn about the camelid family and why vicuña wool is the most expensive textile material in the world. They also show us how to obtain natural dyes and how they hand sew these clothes. When I first time arrived late for volunteering, I missed the event of the month, which is the hatching of baby geese. That's how they looked after about 4 days. As time goes on, I started skipping volunteering a bit more as I began to plan more and more trips with new people I got to know. One day my coordinator asked me if I'm still doing volunteering.
I thought he didn't notice.
But apparently I was wrong. One day I go to the local market to buy fruits I've never seen in my life. I return with a bag full of delicious unknown treats.
I went to the local market today and I bought the fruits I've never seen in my life so I can try them tonight.
I have no idea what they are called, but they are all delicious. I also buy some souvenirs, including a sweater for my sister and postcards for my friends. Later, after an interesting dinner which is fried bananas, I got to know how many species of bananas exist. I play Ludo with my host family. Another interesting fact, we are living on the third floor of an apartment building while the fourth floor is still under construction and the fifth floor is in the planning stage. As my departure approaches, I go to a farewell gathering with my friends. It's at the fortune teller's place who reads from the tea leaves. Yeah, you probably guessed right, it's coca leaves. I stay longer than I planned thanks to my host family. They have the same vibes as me. Just like me, they are inner children walking on carbs. We go for a farewell dinner at the restaurant. Alright, wait for the videos about my trips which were extremely intense. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss them. Bye for now.